Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video I want to cover one of the aggro classics. It is going to be about Ball Wraith. Now I'm up against Narita and let's just have a look at the packs. The building setup is fully kind of symmetrical, or the layout is spread out, so you can play aggro, you can play defense, anything you want really. And I decided to go for a Saber Hound pack because I think it's one of the strongest packs in the game. I think Saber packs in general are just very good if you're comfortable playing aggro. They have good matchups, and they have some incredibly good matchups like the Spider, and well, you can snowball a game very rapidly if you happen to have, you know, one of those pairings. Now, my opponent also has a Saber matchup, and this is where things can get a little bit tricky, because Saber is pretty good into Saber, but, you know, it all depends on how the engagement actually happens. Who has the better starting setup? Who gets the early levels? And that's hard to judge, because I don't know where my opponent's going to be. He might be on the left, he might be on the right. His whole setup might be different as well, right? Like whether the Sabers are where they are now, more to the left, more to the right. All of that can impact how this first round goes. Both of us are pushing into the wall. There is a little bit of thought behind this. I think that there's a marginal difference in defending if you have a wall. I think defending here on your weak side is easier if you have the wall than if you have a building. But, you know, it's a very tiny difference. But Narita seems to agree, or at least he also decides to push on the same side. And, well, let's see how this plays out. I pair two hounds with my existing sabers. He also buys a double hound with his existing crawlers, and we managed to get the first tower debuff because I had some hounds positioned there to try and kill some of the crawlers. Now, this, however, might turn out to be very bad for me, because the way that these debuffs are now going to happen is I'm going to get the first and the third debuff, and he's going to get the second and the fourth. Now, this first and second debuff don't really matter too much. As you can see, our armies are completely separated. But now, if that I'm getting the third debuff of this game, I'll be moving towards him. But I don't do anything with the debuff except move closer to his army. And in the meantime, his crawlers are on my tower. And, well, when they take it out, suddenly I'm right in front of him. So one of my sabers immediately gets locked onto and bites the dust. This is a really bad situation, because now there's just simply more material for him on the board by the time my units recover, and I am very likely to lose the first round and give away a ton of experience, right? I didn't kill his sabers, which are worth 400 experience a pop, and I'm going to be giving away all of my units' experience. As you can see, one of his sabers here is already at 3/4 to leveling up, and this one over here picks up a decent amount too, almost halfway. Compare that to my sabers, which almost didn't get anything. And I already did not like where this was going. If you're playing a mirror, there are three things, in my opinion, that matter. It is going to be who has the most of a unit, who has the highest levels on said unit, and who has the most techs, all right, if you're talking about a mirror matchup. In this scenario, I already could see that he was going to get ahead in terms of levels, right? He just has more experience compared to my sabers, who got, you know, not even 20% here, to be honest. Like, this is a 6th. Not even a 5th. So yeah, it's a bit rough. And because of that, and as we get a unit drop, I decide, okay, well, when you're playing aggro into Saber in a headbutt, the only real alternative you have, if you want to stay in that headbutt, is to play Ball Wraith. Wraith is kind of the best unit in a headbutt long term. It clears the most efficiently, doesn't get stuck. So that is the alternative comp. I get a steel ball offered here, and I say to myself, you know what, I don't even want to try to play this mirror anymore. It's going to be a very uphill fight. I don't have a lot of hit points because of the specialist I took, so let's just immediately try and turn this around. I decided to go for a ball, a wraith, and a crawler. I don't necessarily expect myself to win, because there is a lot to deal with here, and it's unlikely the steel balls will survive. But, you know, I have an okay setup here at least. I can build another wraith and then start getting into more steel balls in the, you know, the next couple rounds that are ahead of us. My opponent goes for hounds on the right side to try and stall, which is rather efficient. He also picks up a Mustang from the unit drop, which looks like it may be able to barely kill my wraith. Only 4 of them alive, but my wraith unable to see the Mustang, so does not take them out. I eventually do get a debuff, and I may end up kind of evening things out here. Perhaps get a tie, which would be an okay result. Still, the sabers we have to have a look at because both are very close to leveling and they get the first lock on. So that's one saber leveled up. And there's another, as we do not manage to grab the debuff in time. So he ends up winning the round. Oh, maybe he doesn't, actually. Let's have a look at that. I do win, but I don't know if we can call this a victory. There's 2 Sabertooth on the enemy board. Both of them are leveling, and now I'm essentially going to need to somehow keep my steel balls alive if I want to take those out. Round number 3, heavy armor shows up, efficient giant manufacturing as well, and underground threat. All good cards. Could try to play for tempo with heavy armor. I decided to pick it because I felt like it was useful on either a steel ball or a wraith. But underground threat here may be good for me as well. I'm not planning to play giant, so I don't think there's any point picking that. My opponent, by the way, is a giant specialist, so he could pick this up if he wants to. I think heavy armor makes the most sense, though. Even though he is up against steel balls, he's, you know, got the advantage in terms of number of units on this left side. So he should be able to protect his sabers adequately. And I'm not going to put this heavy armor on a steel ball because I know that the Sabertooth are likely to level. And when they level, there's no more breakpoint. I believe that normally a steel ball with a heavy armor can tank a Sabertooth shot, but I'm not too sure anymore. Well, I think you do. He's got the first attack enhancement, so normally I think you can if you go for the defense enhancement and you have a heavy armor on there, but not if his sabers are level 2. At that point, the DPS is way too high. Yeah, look at that, right? 17,000 damage. There's no way that the heavy armor is going to be doing anything. So I decided to just put it on a wraith. Another ball, another wraith on this side of the field. And my opponent immediately picks up a giant. He did go for the giant manufacturing card. And as I see the melting point, I already know, okay, this is going to be a multi-melter defense, which is one of the best ways to deal with wraith, in my opinion. And, well, as we can see, it is rather efficient, as he manages to take out both my wraith, all of my steel balls, and now he has, you know, a melter, a level 2 saber, and a normal level 1 saber up against a couple hounds and my unleveled Sabertooth. I don't think we're winning this. Pretty good debuff timer for him as well. He should be able to pick off this one lone Sabertooth, and I don't think I'll get a very meaningful debuff here. No, it doesn't really look like it. Hounds are not going to be able to do anything. Thankfully, my Sabertooth does manage to kill one of his and potentially takes a level if I want to keep pushing here, but I'm mostly focused on this left side of the board. Round number 4, Ion Blast shows up, Barrier shows up, which is going to be the pick for Narita. I really like Ion Blast here. I think it's the only sensible move. I could go for Shield Airdrop, but it's likely going to be popped instantly because of the Melters and the high-level Sabers. And, well, Ion Blast is just a crazy, crazy good spell this early on. Relatively cheap, so it's still affordable, even if you don't have the most resources yet. And low cooldown, so we will see this again on round 8. If I manage to stabilize, that is going to be useful when it comes back and my opponent doesn't pick it. So that should be the thing I go for. There is some other stuff I want to do, obviously. I would like to maybe range my Wraith. I would like to buy more steel balls, but I have this Typhoon I can sell. I could try and use the Typhoon in this comp too, but I think it's a little bit too slow. If I want to go Typhoon, I'm going to need to use more money, more deployments on the Typhoons. It likely will want Barrier, which will be useful, but again, I don't have infinite supplies. So I decided to take the Ion Blast to try and get some tempo back, and I sell my Typhoon to make up some money and be able to hopefully afford the units plus attack on my Wraith. So there we go. Steel Ball picked up a Crawler and range on my Wraith. I decided to also go for a Mobile Beacon and beacon my units away from the Ion Blast because I thought maybe he would pick it up himself. That isn't the case. He goes for the Barrier, but at least, you know, we should be able to avoid the beam here. And to be honest, the Ion Blast should be able to kill most of his units. Right side now, a Melter has appeared. And it's, I think, mostly chaff that has been added by Narita. Managed to kill the Sabers. This one is low on hit points. I think we should be able to finish it off. And now the Steel Balls are moving in perhaps going to be able to connect with this melting point and take it out. I say that, doesn't quite look like it, although one steel ball manages to keep the lock on. The second one goes there as well, and now we have two saber-tooths arriving to finish the job. Melting point going to lock on the left side, likely going to kill my wraith, even though we do get that debuff. But I think we should have enough here to take a round win. So a good result overall. I think I'm not too unhappy about that. I still have some scaling moves that I can do, right? Buy more steel balls, go for mechanical division, maybe buy a third or a fourth wraith and try to move towards that 8-gun tech. Round number 5, mobile beacon shows up. I'm a bit surprised that Narita here plays so quickly. I think an electromagnetic blast could have been useful. It is a real pain for me to deal with, and it's not that expensive of a spell. You would definitely be able to beat me if you were to go for it here and removing all the techs on my wraith. But decides to skip. Once the money, goes for diffraction on the melters. That was kind of expected. And goes for his own wraith. Again, a great move. I think this is kind of textbook in one of the best ways to deal with this type of aggressive comp. Play multi-melter and go for your own wraith. Because one of the problematic aspects of Ball Wraith is, 1, the chaff that often will spawn from Mechanical Division Steel Ball, and 2, the threat of going for wasps to defend your wraith. And things like, you know, Farseer or AA Marksman can have a real hard time getting through those wasps efficiently, which is why it's nice to have the wraith to help out, and then your melting points can likely lock on to, you know, the bigger targets and finish them off. So round number 5, I do go for Mechanical Division. I pick up some more steel balls. I level up my wraith, I level up my sabers, and I try to push in here. I would like to put something on the flank because I could pull the hounds and the crawlers to allow for this diagonal to be more open. If I'm being honest, I probably should have just done that. I should have likely just bought a crawler, top right, and gone in there, but I don't, and so we do get stuck. On the left side, we're doing alright. Some steel balls are still alive, but the melting points are managing to lock onto all of them. And even though there is some chaff still, that wraith did a good job of clearing, and I am not taking out those level 2 melting points without the steel ball DPS. So not a good round here whatsoever. Looks like we're simply going to be taking, I mean, that's 3 giants worth of damage. It will be, plus whatever else is on the board. And that puts me down to 1700 hit points in the mid game. Not ideal here. And round number 6, Smoke Bomb shows up. The only thing I'm really considering, Mass Prod Wasp is an option, but because I saw the Wraith, I didn't really want to invest in it. Narita goes for the Sledgehammer spawn, which is fantastic. Amazing item for Giants. In general, all of the spawn items are very, very good. And it should help him stall. He puts it on his weak side, which also makes sense if he wants to produce as much as possible. And for me, well, I felt like I really needed to invest as much into my board as I could. So I tried to get one of the crucial kind of techs for this comp to work, which is Floating Artillery Array. So I buy another Wraith, and I go for the 8-gun tech, hoping that I can clear the chaff a bit more quickly and let my steel balls move in. I also do grab another steel ball, and I'm selling out of my sabers because they're not doing too much. I think in this scenario, again, I should have probably put a crawler here because it would pull all of these units that are in this square, and it would have opened up the diagonal for maybe an early tower snipe. So a little bit of an inaccuracy there from me. I also have mobile beacons, so I should try and put them to use. I don't think there's much else to be done apart from this diagonal move, but yeah, you can see me kind of try and scramble here as I put as many units on that left side as I can. And, well, is it gonna be enough? That's the question. Steel balls locked on to that barrier. They will take it out. But is there enough left to at least be able to take down one of these melting points? We have a lot of chaff at the very least, but my opponent picks up another Wraith and goes for that range. So his chaff clear isn't bad whatsoever. Thankfully for me, 8-gun Wraith does pack a lot more DPS, and it looks like we may even be able to take down that big melter on the left side. We do. So melting points dealt with, Wraith taken out, and now the only thing that's left is to get rid of this level 2 melting point on the right side. But we'll be able to do so. Keep in mind, they do not have range for the moment. So I do have a pretty significant range advantage here of 30 meters. And lucky for me, the melting point also decides to go towards my wraith. I get a really good tower timing, and with that bonus DPS, I will be able to take care of the remaining melting point. So I managed to win round 6, and I'm very happy about that because there was some other techs I wanted but could not afford. And namely, that would be something like range on the steel balls and absorption on the steel balls. I think both of those would be ideal. Now, round number 7, we get unit reinforcements. I was thinking here of either the fire badgers, try and throw them on the flanks and just kill some chaff and delay his chaff so it's easier for my steel balls to move in. Or I could go for Farseer and just grab an AA tech to be able to dispatch of those enemy wraith. Because if he decides to invest heavily into wraith here, I am in some trouble because all of my anti-air is just the wraith. Now, granted, I have a level advantage and a tech advantage, but, you know, if suddenly 2 level 2 wraiths show up and 8 gun is clicked, I don't think I'm going to be able to take those down very, very quickly. So I opted to go for the Farseer. The bonus of having the Farseer as well is that it has access to things like Photon Emission, which are useful for the balls. Sadly, it doesn't hit the wraith, but, you know, that's life. And normally speaking, the wraith should be able to stay safe and be the last thing that gets locked onto. So I'm not the most afraid of it. And yeah, here we go. Double Farseer, AA. And now, what tech are we going to be picking up? I kind of said I wanted range and absorption, but I also wanted to use my deployments, and I know how important it is to try and overwhelm the opponent with steel balls. So I just decided to go for triple steel ball here. I think an alternative would have maybe been double steel ball plus absorption or double steel ball plus range. I think loaning here would have made some sense, but I don't do it. I do go for temp range, important thing to pick up. Opponent does the same thing. Again, just a really good button to click, especially when you're playing lower range units like Multi-Melter and Wraith. And let's see, are we going to be able to break through? We can also kind of have a look here as to whether I would have had some lock-ons for absorption to do some work. And it looks like I would have. Although double melting point kind of locking onto the same steel ball here, I'm not sure I would have been able to out DPS the melting points. Doesn't look great for us though. The right side loses. And now I find myself at 171 hit points remaining, which means I cannot afford any mistakes. Round number 8. And, well, I know that my way out of this has to be those ball techs. I want to get range, I want to get absorption. So I do the math. I say to myself, well, if I want to grab that, it's going to cost me 1100. I have 1600 in the bank. Can I pick up advanced defensive tactics? And I think, yes, I actually can. 1100 advanced defensive tactics would cost a bonus 300. So that would put me at 1500. I can then sell this saber tooth. I can still loan, get temp range, and even get a couple more steel balls if I want to. So I decide to pick up the advanced defensive tactics because the stats are just very nice to have on the steel balls, and it will make it, well, harder for the multi-melters to take them down and buy that little bit of extra time for a steel ball to maybe ramp up and start that absorption healing. So we go for that plan. I sell my saber. I also have the Ion Blast back available. My opponent, of course, knows this, so he has a redeployment, he moves one of his melters back, and he beacons a melting point and 2 of his wraith backwards to avoid that ion beam, so it doesn't even look like I'm going to be hitting too much. And the counterplay from Narita is very scary here. Fire Badger unlocked with the oil that wasn't purchased yet, so this is all going to be on fire, which could be a big problem for my steel balls, because the ones that die will spawn crawlers, and if they spawn inside of the fire, then I don't have the bonus of that distraction. I decide to move back both of my hounds here, just trying to buy some time, hopefully clear all the crawlers, knowing that the melting point and the enemy wraith isn't that fast, so the tower pressure shouldn't be that high. And let's have a look at this. So a lot of fire on the ground there. Luckily, there are some spots where my steel balls managed to go around. We are overwhelming the level 4 multi-melter. And the right side is looking good too. I might even be able to grab a debuff there. Most of my hounds going towards the melting point in this scenario. I am locked onto the enemy tower. It's level 2, 7 seconds of debuff still. My Farseer take down his Wraith, which means that his Chaff Clear is now crippled. And it looks like I will get to survive round 8, which to me was kind of the crucial moment in this game. I needed to survive this, and I knew that if I managed to, I was then in a good spot. I've managed to get to double tech Wraith, I've managed to get to triple tech Steel Ball, and I have all of the deployments that I need to make this comp work. Obviously, there are still some things that can go wrong here. I only have 171 hit points, a bad drop, a bad spell, an unexpected move from my opponent, and, you know, the game might end. Round number 9, and we see unit reinforcements. Now, I wasn't too impressed by anything here, but there is triple Arclight, and I thought to myself, well, I could go for those deep flanks and maybe put the Arclight here to deal with this crawler flank that my opponent went for. I'm not too interested per se in getting the money. If I wanted the money there, I should have picked the Scorpion and sold it, as it was worth the most. My opponent goes for the level 2 Sandworm. I don't think that's amazing either, because Mechanical Division, which gets picked up, is a good tech, but it's, you know, when you have a single worm, it's not going to be the most impactful into a board of, at this point, I mean, how much are we looking at? 3, 6, 9, 10 steel balls on one side of the board. Make that now 11. Yeah, kind of an overwhelming force here. I decide to go for temp range. I level my right side tower 3 times because I was a bit afraid of a move like this with a melting point on the line, which looks like Narita is contemplating, but he moves it back. He decides to move it back. Moves the melting point even over towards the left side, so he's afraid of maybe getting overwhelmed. There was also, of course, an option for me to try and push on that right side, so if I happen to heavily invest here with, say, double Steel Ball plus a Wraith, he might have very well gotten overwhelmed. So I get why he's a bit apprehensive and doesn't want to go for that aggressive move. Now let's see. The round starts. I do have those Arclights in the corners. They will end up going down. This one on the right, though, doing a decent job of stalling. And, well, with a level 3 tower, I'm not going to be able to take that down anytime soon. But how are we doing on that left side? I decided to go for Photon Emission on my Farseer just for that added tankiness. Now we're going to be able to break through. Here comes the Sandworm. It is going to be locked onto. The Steel Balls should be able to survive that. And it doesn't even look like they got hit, if I'm being completely honest. A couple of Steel Balls make it through. They now start locking onto the Melters and healing back up to full hit points. It looks like we should once more be alright. This might even put Narita at a point where I'm able to win this game if I win the next round. Either way, right, if I lose, the game is over. So another great round and a good amount of damage with triple Wraith still alive and a Farseer, double Farseer even, still alive. And yeah, 1315 hit points, that is doable. Round number 10, we have super heavy armor available. It is a good item for Steel Balls, but I don't know if it's the most impactful here into something like Melting Point. I was thinking about Rhino Assault as well to potentially just kind of stall the enemy board. My opponent here goes for a Rhino Boom. So a little bit of a desperate play perhaps, hoping to just explode a whole bunch of my Steel Balls on the line and, well, making sure that I just don't have as much, you know, pushing power, which makes sense, but we'll have to see if it works out or not. The nice part is that it does, you know, work with the Rhino Assault. So this Rhino that's being dropped in will also have the boom tech and explode as soon as it goes down and likely kill a whole bunch of my Steel Balls. Right side, we have a Rhino as well. I now decide to go for this push on the right side because I saw the tower was quite open. Finally, we pull away all of those crawlers. I decide to put a Rhino all the way in the back to pull this crawler pack specifically and really make sure that nothing is going to be in front of this tower. A beacon here as well. Hopefully, though, that Rhino is far enough from my Steel Balls to, you know, not make them explode. We'll have to see. I go for double defense enhancement as well. I level all of my Steel Balls, which is very expensive. But I think the added DPS, which means, you know, faster healing, and the added tankiness will really help in, again, improving that survivability. Add to that the Photon Coating, And yeah, our board is going to be tough to deal with, even for all of those multi-melters. I like this beacon backwards from Narita, trying to create a little bit more distance between himself and the steel balls, perhaps allow his wraith to chaff clear a bit more, but he doesn't have the 8-gun tech yet, which means that his chaff clear, while it's alright, it's not the quickest it could be. The right side manages to get in. I get a debuff here, 5 seconds, which is still a good amount, and it's enough for all of my steel balls to get some good lock-ons and start that healing, basically making them unkillable. The other tower also falls, and I mean, with that and this onslaught of steel balls, it looks like we have managed to pull the comeback, and, well, Ball Wraith has been fully scaled. So there we go. A game that very early on went sour, basically as soon as round 1, right? We had an annoying matchup, a matchup I really dislike playing, which is a saber-tooth mirror, which I think is very volatile, and often one player will get ahead very early and the other can be in trouble, or is in trouble rather, and in that scenario, I just like to try and pivot, so that's what we did. We managed to survive, if only barely. I think there were some alternative plays that we could have made, that I mentioned, right? So an earlier flank here to try and maybe get a debuff. Grabbing the energy absorption around earlier, I think would have worked out as well, rather than, you know, being a bit too greedy here and buying more steel balls. But eventually it all works out. Now, for Narita, I think his defense was very, very solid. I would generally recommend, if you're facing this, that multi-melter plus wraith plus chaff is great to deal with this. But once you get to the later stages, it can be very useful to grab another unit, which is going to be the hacker. So let's go and take over here on round 9, which was that unit drop, right? So Narita went for the sandworm, which I wouldn't recommend. I don't think it's that useful. The scorpion in this case is worth more, right? It sells for 750, so you'll make 550 profit. The sandworm is worth 600, so you will make 400 profit. So this is better to take and to sell. And we're going to go for, of course, lone, temp range. We're going to elite recruit hackers. And now what's important here is that you need 2 techs on the hacker to make this work. You need both range and you need enhanced control. I haven't tested this with other techs, but it does not work at all if you only go range. If you only go range, you get heavily overwhelmed. So it's important that you do pick up these techs. Now let's go for some missiles here to try and get rid of that front chaff. This is also quite an important move when you're doing this type of stuff. Let's go for an aggressive play here on the left side. Let's go for a missile on this crawler, and let's move this smelter in. We don't have the money for speed or anything, but I think this already will be a good illustration. So the arc lights will be on the flanks, but as you can see, some of the steel balls will get taken over, and as they get taken over at full health, all of my steel balls stop moving and start attacking the enemy steel ball. And that little bit of extra time allows for these multi-melters to get through the chaff together with the wraith and lock on to the remainder of the steel balls. And as you can see, it takes a really long time for me to get in. Now, some of my wraith will eventually go down, but at this point, the number of steel balls on the enemy board has really dwindled. Left side also now gets in, not that it would have mattered, but the steel ball or the debuff does help. And I mean, just look at that, right? Very, very big round win. And well, that is how Narita could have defended against this. He'll be dealing 2,400 damage. He only needed 176. So yeah, that is kind of the way that you deal with this. So he played it very well. But this particular melter line was crucial. Anyway, if you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. Is it one of the comps that you like playing? Is it one of the comps that you hate playing against? Let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. If you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.